In today's video, we're gonna be doing something pretty cool. If you enjoy doing this, you're probably gonna like this video, and it could save you lots of money down the road. Let's check it out.
Before we get this installed, let's take a quick look at what's included in the Bevinsee Differential Breather Kit. Inside the box, you'll find the breather assembly, all the necessary fittings and hardware, and the hose needed to relocate the differential breather to a higher, safer location. The components feel solid with CNC machined aluminum construction and corrosion-resistant materials for a clean installation. So why does this upgrade matter? As your differential heats up, pressure builds up inside the housing and vents through the factory breather. When it cools, it can create a vacuum effect. If the breather is submerged during a water crossing, mud hole, or deep puddle, water and contaminants can be drawn into the differential. Contaminated gear oil can lead to premature wear, damaged bearings, seal issues, and costly repairs. By relocating the breather higher on the vehicle, this kit helps reduce the risk of water intrusion and adds peace of mind whether you're off-roading, launching a boat, or driving through flooded roads. It's a simple upgrade that can help protect your drivetrain and potentially save you money down the road. Now let's get it installed.
All right, so to start out today's install, these are the tools that I'm going to be using, and as I've learned in the past, these may not be the only tools, so if there's additional things that I'll be using, I'll add it to the screen here as well. But to start out, I've got my ratchets, I've got a 10mm socket, I have a 12mm wrench, and I've got my handy dandy needle nose pliers, as well as the zip ties that came with this kit. So let's go ahead and get to work. To start this install out, we're gonna go ahead and mount the breather kit inside the engine bay. So I'm gonna show you exactly where we're gonna do that at. But before we do that, I recommend going ahead and tightening these fittings down just to make sure they are. So far, it looks like they've come tightened from the factory, but I've learned you should always check these just to make sure you don't have any actual leaks or anything like that happen. So I'm gonna check these real quick and make sure that we are good to go. We're going to be installing this right here. Where this hood strut is, there's a little hole in the sidewall, so it's directly below this gas strut. That's where we're going to be mounting our breather kit at. I'm going to go ahead and start screwing this bad boy in, and then we'll go from there. From our hardware kit, we're going to take out this bolt right here. This is the one that we're going to be using to mount this guy to that sidewall over there. For this, we're going to use our 10mm socket to get that guy to attach right over there. So let's go ahead and get this thing going. There we go. We've got the breather mounted to the sidewall right here. So we're using that 10mm bolt right there to get it stuck to the sidewall. Overall, this part was pretty easy. Let's talk about what's going to happen next. All right, in order to make this install a little bit easier, I'm going to need to drop the spare tire that's under the cargo area. In order to do that, we're going to need to get in here and retrieve our spare tire tools. Once you open up this panel, there's a little bag right here. We're going to unclip this bag right here, and then we're going to take out our tools. Once you have the rod put together, you're going to feed it in at an angle, so you're going to feel it click into place. Then we'll just add our other rod to the end of it, and we'll start to lower the wheel. All right, and with that out of the way, we want to go ahead and retract it back up so it's not dangling there when we're working under the truck. Ah, what are you doing? So I just got that tire down. We're about to get up under the truck. No, don't jump in there. No, don't jump in there. I know, you want to go for a ride. Don't do it. Hey, don't do it. Don't, oh God, don't do it. No, don't do it. Get out of there. All right, let's get back to work. All right, now that we have the spare tire down, you can see we've got a lot more room to work in. So the area that we're going to be working in is right over here in this corner, so let's get a closer look. Now that we're here, this is our rear differential breather right here. So this area is where we're going to start our work at. But before we do anything here, if you notice, there's all kinds of dirt and sand and silt here because I do a lot of puddle splashing and off-roading. I'm gonna need to clear this area out a little bit. That way, when I take that fitting off right there, we don't actually drop any of the dirt and dust and debris down into the differential because that would be bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a wet cloth and I'm gonna start wiping this area down pretty good. Now that I've got the whole area kind of wiped down and mostly dust free, we can start working in here. But a quick pro tip of the day, be very careful when you're working around in here because there's a lot of sharp edges. You could cut yourself pretty good. That might have just happened to me, but hey, that's part of it. But we're gonna throw a Band-Aid on it and we're gonna keep chugging. On to the next step. In the included hardware kit comes this little fitting. This one is going to replace the one that is currently on the top of the differential. We're gonna need a 14mm wrench to get this thing on and off. So what this actually does is allow us to connect our hose just like this. So let's go ahead and get our fitting put on, and then we'll talk about running hoses. All right, so now I've got my 14. I was gonna use my little guy, but I think I got enough room in here to use this longer wrench. It's gonna give me a little bit more leverage to get this thing off here because it's on there pretty tight. Slow and easy, and we'll get this thing off here and we'll replace it with a new one. Yep, that happened. Almost, not quite. Woo. I forgot it does that. All right, knock my camera over here. All right, so we've got the old valve out. I'm gonna put the new fitting in, and then we'll move to the next step. So there she is. She's in nice and snug. I'll get you a close-up view of it so we can see what it looks like, but don't forget, dab a blue Loctite in there, get it in there real good. Don't over tighten it, just make sure it's nice and snug, and we'll move on to the next step. Now that we have our fitting put on, we're gonna grab our tubing. You'll notice that we have a lot of tubing here. That's because we're going to size and cut a few pieces because we've got more than one fitting that we're working with today. That one that we just did was the first one. I'm gonna go ahead and route this tubing from our fitting up into our engine bay where we'll connect it to our block, and then we'll talk about the next step. So we're gonna grab our tubing and we're gonna put the end right into the fitting that we just placed into our differential. So we're gonna go over here. I'm gonna feed it in just like this. All you gotta do is push and it's gonna lock itself in place. So once it's in there, nice and easy. So it's clamped in real good. So now we don't have to worry about anything falling into that hole right there. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start routing our tubing from this point all the way up into the engine bay where we mounted our relocation kit. I'm gonna go ahead and route the tubing. When I'm done, I'll show you how I did it. So we got the routing done. I'm gonna go under and zip tie this thing up, but I wanted to show you a little trick. Make sure that you tape off the end of this tube as you're feeding it through so you don't get any debris in there. The whole point is to keep stuff from getting in the differential, so let's not add stuff into the tube. I've got this thing fed through. She's coming up. I'll go ahead and get under and do the zip tie, and I'll show you the pathway for this part, and then we'll move on to the next step. Here's the line running off the differential. So straight up there, I left enough slack on the differential because the axle will move up and down as we're driving. We don't want to make it too tight, otherwise we'll snatch the air line right out of the differential. From the differential, it's running up over behind this heat shield. Behind the heat shield that's right there. For my first zip tie point, I've got it zip tied to this piece here. So I'm directly above the drive shaft right now. So if you follow along the drive shaft, so it fed over the top of the drive shaft through that channel right there. I've got it zip tied to that fuel line. Then it's running behind the skid plate where it's gonna come out right here. So there's a little plastic piece here with a channel. I tried to squeeze it into the channel and it just wouldn't go. So I just zip tied it in place. Again, we follow the line down right there. I used the plastic channel that was there. I was actually able to fit the line in there. And then from there, we're gonna keep going towards the engine bay. All right, so right now what I'm looking at is the Cadillac converter. So you got that heat shield that's on the other side. The tubing ran across from our last point where it was in that little channel. It ran across the top, right above the heat shield to keep it off the Cadillac converter and the exhaust. There's a fuel line there that I have it zip tied to right there. And then it's going to continue running from there around the other side of this Cadillac converter behind the heat shield, still zip tied to the fuel line. And then from there, I've got it running up into the engine bay, and we'll look at it in the engine bay. From where we were at under the vehicle, I ran it up through the engine bay. It's mounted to that line right there with a zip tie, and it's going to wrap all the way around behind this master cylinder for our brakes. And then I have it running right here along that wire loom. Don't mind all the wires that are back here. That's just excess wiring from my lights. I left a lot of slack in there in case I want to cut it up later. But then it runs right into our new Bevinsee relocation kit. So that's how I have that one lined up. To get that hose to connect in there, you just push up on the fitting, you pull the little plug out, and then you put the line in just like we did on the differential. Now let's get back under the truck and I'll show you the next part. All right, so there's no real easy way to show this side because I don't have a car lift and I'm down here on the ground underneath the 4Runner. But the next side, we need to pull these lines off our transfer case and our transmission so we can connect these breather tubes back up into the engine bay on our new Bevinsee manifold. What we've got here, again, kind of difficult to see, but I'm on the passenger side now, directly behind the front tire. What I'm gonna try to do is show you this space here. So if you see where that little white cap is, it's right there. So there's really no easy way to do this without a lift. You're gonna have to like fight to figure it out here and reach your hand around, but above the transmission is where that transmission breather line was and transfer case lines were. So If you reach up there, you should be able to disconnect them and pull them back down here. What we're gonna do now is I'm going to use the excess line that I cut from the first part, and I'm going to connect that transmission line to our Bevinsee tubing, and we're going to run it from there back up into the engine bay to our Bevinsee manifold. So let's go ahead and start that process. Our Bevinsee manifold that we have mounted in here, when I connected this piece here, what I ended up doing was cutting the line. I had a lot of excess line that we're going to use later. All you need to do is cut it nice and straight. We're going to use this excess tubing on our transfer case breather and our transmission breather. All right, so before we get back under the vehicle, what we need to do is put these fittings together on our tube. So if we get in our kit, you'll see you have these little brass fittings. This side, the smaller side, is what's actually going to feed into our tube right here. So we'll feed it in just like that, and then we're going to clamp these guys on. The larger side is going to go to the hoses that are under the vehicle. So I'm going to put this hose together real quick, and then we're going to get under the truck and we're going to get this thing done. So now what I'm going to do, this is off of our transmission. I'm going to come up here, I'm going to get this little plastic piece out of the tubing. Once I have that out of the tubing, I'm going to use our new line, and I'm going to feed it in there. So let me get that piece out, and I'll show you how I'm going to connect them. All right, so what I ended up doing is pulling the transmission breather vent off. We pulled the actual air intake piece off the tubing. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to fit the brass fitting into our tube here, and then we're going to put this back where it's supposed to go. So let me go ahead and put this part together, and then we'll show you where it's at underneath. In our kit right here, we're going to have one of these clamps that's just a little bit bigger than the others. That's the one we're going to want to find, which is this guy right here. And we're going to use our needle nose. We're going to pinch this clamp down. We're going to slide the tube in. Let's do it a smarter way, go from the side here. All right, so we've got that in. I'm going to feed our little fitting in right there. Again with the hose, I'm going to come from the side because that's the smart thing to do. And then we're going to pull this clamp down over the hose so that we can make sure this doesn't slide off on us. All right, so it'll go on just like that. So I've gone ahead and connected our breather line back to the transmission. I've ran it back up to the manifold. So now underneath, I've gone ahead and hit the transfer case tubes. I've gone ahead and put these two fittings in here. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna route the tube up through the engine bay and back to our manifold for our transmission. I'm gonna cut the line, and I'm gonna use two pieces of the line for this to feed back into our manifold. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So we cut the tubing so we can fit these to the transfer case. What I've done now is I've taped the tubing every couple inches or so to keep it nice and easy when it's getting fed up through to the engine bay. These are connected. We've got it taped up so it stays together. And now I'm going to feed it up into the engine bay, and we're going to connect it to our Bevinsee manifold up there, and this install will be complete. All right, there it is, all installed. I've got our 4 lines running to our new breather kit under the hood. Overall, this thing looks pretty good. This is a solid little install. Let's go ahead and close this one out. All right, guys, that wraps up today's video. I hope you found the install super helpful. This isn't one of those fancy mods that's going to add horsepower or make your vehicle look like drastically different or anything, but what it's going to do is save your drivetrain later down the road. If you like splashing through puddles, if you like doing river crossings, stuff like that, it's probably a good idea to get a breather differential relocation kit so you can save yourself some money long term. But if you find yourself interested in this kit, I'll leave the information in the description below. That being said, Danny and I are going to take this thing off-road. We're going to go do some splashing ourselves. If you want to stick around, you can do that, but otherwise we'll see you in the next video. You ready, boy?